Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Welcome to Watercolor Wednesdays. This is week 4. We've been doing some awesome stuff. I'm loving seeing your posts. I love that, hey, you don't even have to watch it on Wednesdays, even though we're calling it Watercolor Wednesdays. You can watch this anytime. The videos stay posted. I know lots of people are watching it on Tuesdays or watching it whenever they can. But I love that lots of you are also tuning in tonight with your paints and your paper ready. Tonight we're doing portraits. And have you been practicing your C's though? Because next week is florals. This week is portraits. So you are going to want to be building up that muscle memory. We'll do a little bit of homework when we get to the end tonight too, to keep building, because we are going to want to get to the point where you can be making your own freehand watercolor florals. You can be doing up your own little bits of artwork. Until then, I encourage you to keep using the stamps like we did in week 1. And, we made this great little card, and keep stamping and watercoloring, because that's a great way to go. Of course, you can always print off more sheets. If you go to homemade.ca, we sent out a link. There are downloadable free downloads. If you want to print these, just make sure you're using a laser printer and you're using watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is a big one, as you're going to learn tonight. If you have the kit, we are using the Making Faces book, and it's all about portrait painting. And this is a lot like doing your makeup. If you're a makeup wearer, this might come a little easier to you. But take a look at some of these raw faces in here. It's just the shell. Some of them are a little more dramatic. But you are going to feel like a real artist tonight when you get these kind of colored in. We're going to start on page 1, this girl right here. And I just want to reiterate, take a feel of this paper if you've got this kit in front of you. And then take a feel of, let's say, your Lighthouse page or some of the watercolor paper that came in the kit. You're going to feel a big difference. And go ahead, Tamara.
Yeah, what is the non-watercolor paper that you gave us in the cricket event?
Non-watercolor paper?
I think that was just printer paper.
In the cricket event, they got white cardstock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just regular cardstock from Basil. That's great scrapbooking paper. What did we use that project? I'm trying to think. Anyway, what we've got here tonight is watercolor paper, and we've got mixed media paper in the book. So you're really going to feel the difference between these two papers tonight. And my guess is that you're going to really love and see what watercolor paper really does, because the mixed media paper in this book acts very differently than watercolor paper does. It's not as forgiving. It's not as blendable. So we have to layer up, and we're going to start with our lightest layers first, and then we're going to build as we kind of do our faces here. But what we're going to really concentrate on is highlights. And there's like a sort of a phrase, I guess, in art, I don't know, it's protect the highlight. And the way you get, let's just see if I can find an example. Okay, here's a good example on the front cover. So here along the bridge of her nose, there's no paint there. There's no white. We've protected the highlight. And so I want you to kind of think about the places where you see the white, the highlights. And it's usually a place that sticks out on the face. So if you're doing a portrait, think about your own face and what protrudes. Your cheekbones stick out a little further than, the bottoms of your cheek. Your forehead probably sticks out, especially mine, a little further than, the Ruby's nodding, and we got Ruby off to the side here going, don't worry, you got my forehead. You're in luck. Maybe your chin, the tip of your nose. This is a place that the light is hitting your face first. And so if you want your drawings or your paintings to be a little bit more realistic, and we're going to work on that tonight, you're going to want to protect the highlight. You also are going to want to protect the highlight in hair. So I don't know. Let me see if you can see. But like if I was out in the sun and my hair was kind of coming down here, probably right about here, it would be slightly lighter than here and here. And it's not just my dye job, okay? It's that the light is hitting the furthest, like the part of my head that's sticking out the most. So you want to protect that highlight when you're drawing tonight too, and we're going to go through that. So how's everyone doing? Where is everyone tuning in from? Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Ruthie. Hi, Nell. Everyone's here. Lots of familiar names. So glad you guys are all tuning in. We've got Tamara behind the camera who's going to ask out your questions. Hi from Vancouver. Oh, that's great.
Vancouver, Texas, everywhere.
Yeah, this is great. And we've got Ruby, my daughter, who's been taking watercolor Wednesdays with us the whole way. You ready for some portraits tonight?
Yes, and I'm from Ontario.
Yes, you are from Ontario. Why don't you step in? Or tomorrow's going to zoom over and so people can catch a look at you. Ruby's got her drawing out. I know lots of you guys are doing.
Where's Ruby?
There she is.
There.
Lots of you guys are doing the class with kids. There you go. Hi, Ruby. You can look at the camera. Say hi to everyone.
Hello.
Yes. And I love that you're doing the class with kids, grandkids, because watercolor is a perfect activity. It's so forgiving and it's water soluble. So it literally wipes right up. There you go. Not that you're making messes, but you know what I mean. Okay, so let's get going here. If you notice in the inside of your book, there's a little bit of like a tutorial for you to read. And it does talk about a little bit about like protruding and protecting the highlights. They're not going in order here of how you want to paint necessarily. So you can read through this, but let's follow along together to kind of get the flow here. I'm going to urge you to have a piece of watercolor paper, even if it's a scrap or the back of something that you already have done, so that you can make a little palette if you have some watercolor pastels. And I would encourage you to figure out what kind of skin tone you want your girl to have. Light skin, dark skin, peach skin, brown skin, decide. Because that's where we're going to start, is with her skin. And in the palette that came in the kit, you've kind of got this one in the bottom corner here that's a bit peachier. You could mix some in your palette to get, a more yellowy tone or a browner tone. That's my son's baseball game starting. You can watch it like right on the app. It like keeps it going, but I'll try to resist. Thanks, Ruby. How they're playing in this heat in the full polyester pants. Hi. Okay, Ruby's going to tell us what's going on. Great. I'm also going to use primarily tonight my water brush because we've been using our other brushes a lot. So let's get using our water brushes because you'll fall in love with water brushes once you get using them. You don't have to use as much like constant dipping and you have like quite a bit of control. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this peachier tone and I'm going to draw it. I'm just going to go overhead here and I'm going to just draw it a lot. I'm going to put a lot of that pigment down into my little container here. In fact, I'll probably do it in a couple of them just so I've got options. Oh, I pressed so hard I broke it. Okay, don't do that. Hold it by the tip if you're risking breaking it. Sharing with Ruby. Yeah, I did break it. And then I've also got a little bit of a, reddier brown tone here. I'm just going to put down maybe some of the pinks. We're going to talk lips and rouge and all of that. So I'm going to put down. And just because you're putting it in your palette doesn't mean you have to, like you're committed to her wearing it. The other thing you could do here, and maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit or someone can remind me, is I can show you a little bit about how to draw directly on to your page with your pastels, but we'll start with what we're familiar with right now. And that's a little bit of, painting it on. A little bit of a blue-green color, the Da Vinci. And just kind of get your palette ready.
Can you put freckles on them?
Totally put freckles. I am a freckle face, so I'm all for putting freckles. Okay, let's start though with a bit of water. I'm going to start with a wet brush. Make sure you've filled your brush and you've got some paper towel handy. And you've got a little piece of watercolor paper in case you need to use that as a palette also. I'm a big fan of laying down a bit of color and picking it up as you need it and not always having to mix it in the palette. So with a fairly wet brush, I'm just going to activate.
They can't really see what you're doing there. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So with a fairly wet brush, I'm going to just activate the kind of peachy color here. And I can either squeeze to add some more water in and get it kind of pale. And now this is when you would decide, okay, how dark or light do you want the skin tone to be? So you can add a little bit of that red. You can mix in some green and red, green, red, and blue to make a much browner tone. But then you want to really, really get it nice and wet. You want it to be fairly translucent for this first pass. And before you touch your page, I want you to just watch me do it first, because mixed media paper, which is what we're about to paint on, is not even close to as forgiving as watercolor paper. You're not going to be able to lift it up with a paper towel and re-wet it. Once it's down there, it's down there. However, the good news is we can layer. So if we start with a very soft, light, translucent, watery shade, then we can build on the color. If we were to just drop down some dark color right away, we're not going to be able to take it away. So word to the wise, watch, then do. So I've got a fairly light color here. And remember, I'm just going to kind of keep her T-zone here in mind when I'm protecting the highlight. So, Ruby, would you like to use one of these brushes?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's full. So I'm just going to start at the side and just kind of color in using the very, very lightest shade. And I'm starting at the side because that's where I know the darkest will be. It's not that I'm avoiding the cheeks or the top of, oh, I got a little hair on there, a fluff. I'm not avoiding the cheeks or the top of the forehead or anything like that. It's just that I know that around the face is going to be the darkest. So I'm always starting at the edge of the face and bringing that light color in. And you can see it's super light. Super light. We're going to start building on the color, okay? So now I can bring in a little bit more pigment to my little water wash here. And let's start building a little bit more. And then just let it be. Look at how like natural it looks already. Let's just start building on that. And we're going to protect the highlight. So I think her cheeks are going to kind of come out here a little bit. So I'm going to try to kind of keep this area right here without drawing a circle. I'm going to kind of try to protect that, kind of avoid that area. So look at how much more realistic it looks just by adding a little shade darker just along the jawline. Now, I'm not going to forget up here. And you'll notice how what's good about using the water brush is that if I was using my regular brush, it would have dried out by now. And because we're on mixed media paper here, if it dries out, it'll leave a streak that you won't be able to recover from. Okay, so it's looking a little even now. So let's start bringing in some darker again around the jawline. And because it's wet, it's still going to spread. It's just going to stick. See how it just all of a sudden spreads? Okay, so I'm going to get a little more pigment down. let's go to the close-up camera from the front. Yeah. And then, yes, exactly. And then we can show you how that just right on the jawline there. And then probably like right around her nose where it would be a little more shaded. You can bring some of that deeper color. Maybe right underneath her lips. Temples can be darker.
So cool.
You loving it, Tamara?
I am.
So again, I'm picking up like really dark pigment now. This is the second container. No real water, and then just right along the jawline. So not watery at all, but because it's on the water brush, you're getting still some nice flow. Now, she needs a little definition in her cheeks. She looks a little, yeah, a little faint here. Now, remember, don't just take pigment and draw a nose line. You know, you're going to want to start a little darker and kind of start bringing it to life, protecting the highlight, remember? So we're protecting this area, we're protecting this area, and then kind of the straight of the nose. And join it to something else. Don't just go straight up and stop. Keep painting down so that things meld together. And if you need to squeeze a little bit so that the water keeps flowing, that's fine. But you'll notice when you come back over here, unlike using watercolor paper, I'm not able to reactivate this and pick it up and move it. That's why I'm telling you to play it safe with the highlight. So let's get a lot of that kind of peachy color now. And maybe I'll even take a little bit of brown. Let's see what that looks like together. So I'm about to do her underneath her neck. So there's a couple ways you could go here. You could go, let me just see if I have an example. You could go very realistic and kind of keep it the same color, or you could kind of go artsy and bring in like a gray or something like that. But let's just keep it as real as possible right now. So let's start with a nice wash just across the neck. And you want to do the light wash all at once, because if you don't, there will be a line. The mixed media paper absorbs the water, but doesn't really allow it to flow very well. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my pure pigment and maybe even a little darker. Let's go right under her chin here. And I'm kind of using the tip of the brush and then the base of the brush that has less pigment on it, and just bringing it right around. So using the tip in the corner, and see how I'm kind of going flat here because there's no pigment on the brush down here. So that's sort of allowing me to get a bit of a blend. And then you're kind of getting that highlight going. Now we don't want to make her look like she has a rash. So looking a little red. Sunburn under the neck. I don't know. It looks shadowed. It looks shadowed. Okay, let's let this dry. Oh, let's not forget her ears. We don't have to do too much to her ears. We are gonna do hair. She has no hair. Did you notice? Let's give her some gray hair. But let's let the face dry while we do some of these other fun things, like the lips and the eyes. Let's do some eyes. So I'm just going to rinse off my brush now in my water and dampen it or just dab it on my paper towel. And of course, it's up to you. What color eyes should she have? I'm going to give her kind of green eyes, and we'll have a little bit of fun. Like, let's put in some, so I've got the green from my palette here. I'm going to give her a little fleck of yellow, like just on the tip of my brush, but I do not want there to be a lot of water here because the eye, the pupil is a very small space. And again, we want to protect the highlight. And I'm seeing that Jane Davenport, who drew this, she's already sort of told us where to protect. See how there's the little ball going into the pupil and then it kind of comes out? Let's leave that part white. And then you can just choose a couple other little sections to give her, I'm going to give her a couple little flecks of yellow. Yeah, I know it seems strange, like yellow eyes. Ruby's like, huh? But it's what's going to make her eye look realistic is to give it a little bit of like extra. So why don't I zoom in? I'm going to just go up and zoom in for you guys so you can see let me do the eyes like a little bit closer. There we go.
What yellow did you use?
I used the yellow from the tin, from the paint palette.
Which one?
The darker one, the goldier one. Yeah. Yep. That's right, the bottom one. Okay, so let's look at the eyes here. So now I'm going to just keep that yellow that I've got on my brush and just just add a little bit of the green. I might need to use the darker green, but remember, we start light and then bring in the extra as we need it because of the mixed media paper. So dab your brush first before you bring it over so that there isn't a big drop of water on the end, and then bring it over. Okay, so I'm gonna, that green from I'm gonna use the green from here because it's a little bit darker. But I'm gonna still dab it first. Maybe a little bit of the bottom green. Just mix around and see if you can kind of find a realistic. There we go. And you don't need to go over your yellow, but it'll sort of naturally want to merge. So can you see? I'll just keep going and you can watch. Protect the highlight. And I'm literally using like the little hair on the end of this brush. And you can see now you don't really notice the yellow at all, but her eyes do have a bit more of a sparkle. So I'm going to really water out my brush and just with the green, just go over top of that highlight. So it's technically been painted, but still kind of reads white. All right, I'm going to do the same on the other side with the green. Dab your brush first. I'm just dabbing it on my paper towel so that I don't have that big drip of water. How's everybody doing out there? Everyone's just watching? Everyone's so quiet. Look at that. Looks realistic, hey? All right, so now I'm just gonna kind of rinse off my brush, dab it, and just kind of with the water and the green, fill in the white, but you'll see it doesn't spread. It really doesn't spread that well. All right, let's leave that to dry for a minute. And let's move up to the lips a little. So what do you think? Some crazy lipstick? What do you think, Ruby? Yeah, like the real red or pink. Yeah, all the ones that I'm afraid to wear.
I think it should be orange.
You think orange?
Orange?
Oh, we can't, Ruby. Making me sweat here.
Or maybe like.
What are you picking here? Oh gosh,
Okay.
Fast forward to your 16
Purple.
Purple lips. No, I have to veto that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can choose purple lips if you like.
What about this one?
Although
And then
that's
you
pretty
just
good.
add water.
Sure, that's true. You can just add water. Let's add
Start
it.
on it.
Is it on my palette? This one?
Yep.
All right, let's try that one. All right, you try it. Let's see what it looks like here. again, I'm just activating it. I know you can't see in my overhead because it's so zoomed in, but I'm just getting lots of water. Here, I'll bring it over so you can see. Lots of water, activating it. And then let's just bring that right to her lips. And you can see on the drawing where it's meant to be darker, but keep in mind the highlight. My little pony lip means probably the front bottom needs to be a little lighter in the center than anywhere else. So keep that in mind. So let's just do our sort of first wash. I should have dabbed that on my paper towel so that I didn't have quite so much water. So dab it on your paper towel before you bring it over to the lips. I gotta say, doing these faces is satisfying. When you do them, I want to report back because they come together so quickly and they look so good that you feel really accomplished. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like when you're not an artist, you're just I don't want to diminish it. Like I'm a crafter, really. To be able to feel like you're painting this is really fun. Okay, so now this just looks like an overall wash of color. So let's now take a bit of that same color. I like this color, it looks good, Rube. And let's just put a little bit so that we can pick it up. So with my brush, I'm not squirting any water. I'm picking up pure pigment. I'm not squeezing, nothing. I'm just picking up pure pigment. And let's bring it to where it looks like it's darker, already drawn in. And let's kind of protect that highlight right in the center of the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of do a little oval and not paint in the front there. So now, do we have a deeper purple or even a red? Let's try, we've got this pink color. We've got, this deeper purple. I don't know if we want to go too deep. Let's see if we've got more of like an actual red, the Dolly. That's kind of a brownish red. Let's try that. Oh, here's a right red, like the Cézanne. Yeah.
Move down a bit.
Let's just see what, when I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because we're so tight here. There we go. So let's just see when I lift some of this color up, what we like. You can refer to your color palette too if you want. I think, Ruby, you might get your wish on the dark purple. All right, I'm going to bring the dark purple over just to like the inside of her lips here. And I'm just with little tiny flecks.
I want to zoom in a bit.
Yeah.
So they can see.
So just with like little flecks like this, like let's paint over those lines that are already there. I'm going to leave the center alone just for right now. I'm going to leave that center alone also. Okay. Let's go back to our pink.
Kind of looks like a flower.
It does. Kind of. So I'm going to bring my watery pink again and now dab off so you don't have tons, and just kind of go over everything, including the highlight. Because we don't want it to look like she's kind of got one color, in the, like this part of her lip and another color. So over the highlight, over her. If you need to bring in some more like purple, go ahead. Okay, looking good. Now, her skin feels pretty dry. I want to make sure I don't have any purple left on my brush. So on your paper towel or somewhere, just squeeze a little water and make sure it's all gone. Let's go back in with our skin tone now. If you have to make some more, because I'm kind of out of skin tone, or I don't have a lot anyway on my palette, go ahead and put some more down. Just don't put the dry pencil on the wet. Choose a new part or do it on some paper. Now I'm going to go back in here and shade a little bit under her chin, a little bit more here.
Now she looks like she's got a 5 o'clock shadow.
It does look like we've started with her beard. It's all right. Just go all the way around. And make sure you're lighter, just where those. Okay, let's go in with a little bit of like the red or some pink and give her just a hint of blush. So make sure it's nice and watery, dip off, and then right on her cheekbone. Remember, you can always add more. You can't take away, so caution. Just add a little like rouge. And you want to do this while it's wet so that you can get a little bit of blend there. I feel my paper. My paper is sort of like warping right at the top of the cheekbone. So it's like making it look even more highlighted. And it doesn't have to be subtle. Like you can put some down. If it's a little too much, give your pen a little squirt. But remember, the water comes out and it's not going to go away like on the watercolor paper. So if you give a little bit more on one side, like I've got a little bit more, then I'm going to try to even out this side. Now let's work on her eyeshadow a little bit so we can decide, like, do we want her to have like, a little bit of an eyeliner on? Do we want to put in, a little bit more lashes? Do you want her to stay as is? Maybe before we do that, we should kind of start thinking about what kind of hair she should have. Because hair really is sort of going to complete this look. And there really is an art to doing hair. You could use one of your art liner markers if you wanted and draw in some hair. But you don't have to. Like you could just, so if I'm looking at this one, you could just do it without any, or you can start with like a line so that you have something to follow. So why don't we try that? And should we give her a part? How should we, what do we think? Short hair, long hair?
Long hair.
Long hair, just swooshing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all you really need to get you going, because really what we're mostly interested in is this part here, because this is going to predict where the highlight is. So you want to use that, Ruby? Yeah. So let's decide what color hair she's going to have. Like, let's give her like a little sort of red, brown,
Red.
red. I find that red always ends up being brown when I do it, because then by the time I mix it all together. So let's see if I can get something going in the center here that looks kind of, I got kind of a green base going on. I could wipe that out, or maybe I can add to it. Let's add a bit of red to that green. It's going to give us that auburny kind of color. And we can add more water. That's just going to make it, more translucent. Let's add some more pigment, green, red. And then we kind of get that reddish brown color. So without too much water on your brush, you want to I'm going to just zoom in a little bit here. Without too much water on your brush, dip it on the paper towel so that you should get that sort of bubbling off. You don't want to go to your drawing with that. We're going to sort of assume that the sun's going to hit her right here and probably right there. That's probably where the light would hit, right?
Yeah. I've got a question about hair.
Yeah, go ahead.
How would you draw curls with the brush?
So let's do curls in a minute, but because let's start with the easier. But curls, when you're doing them, it's what you think. It's sort of just squiggles. But let's get to that either on the next face, or we can just do one on its own. Let's just start with this for now. And we're just going to give her fairly straight hair. But we're not going to go from the part all the way down, all the way up. No. We're going to do this in little sections around the highlight. So remember, our first highlight's right here. So we're going to work from in like this. So we're going to start, and with just the tip of the brush, okay, I'm going to move this over so the other camera can get it. With just the tip of the brush, we're going to just start kind of swooshing over. And I'm going down near the face, but rounding near the top of the head. So it's sort of going one way and then the other way. And it's okay if it goes past the line. It's hair. It should be everywhere. But I'm going to try to not go past that middle part. So I'm going to pretend there's a part in her hair right here, but I'm not going to draw it in. I'm just going to leave it. And I'm just going to kind of make a scoop down and a scoop up. I'm not doing long swoops, okay? No long swoops. And then a little more paint on my brush, and then I'm going to go up. Again, caving this way and meet in the middle if it's looking like it's not connected, and then up, meeting at the highlight. And you're going to have hundreds of strokes here. We're literally drawing in the hair. The hair is not a big glob of color. It will be the connection of the strokes that make the overall color. Now, this color is too light and see-through to be the final color. So let's just get a few more down here. Protect the highlight. It's okay if you go through a couple times, but you can see that highlight is there. Let's get the other side going now too. So we're kind of going in a curve down and then a curve up. Protecting, the highlight doesn't go down, it goes across, Okay, you know what I mean? It goes this way. Oh, I kind of almost did that. I touched my page a little there. So even if it's very small strokes, that's okay. And we want these strokes, like, to be honest, are a little thick. So I'm going to switch over. Either switch over to your very skinny water brush. Oh, mine's clean enough. Or your tiny brush, or your other watercolor, medium-sized watercolor brush that has a finer point. I'm going to switch over to the medium one with a very fine point. And see if I can get even finer strokes. Aha, yeah. And now, let's start swooping her bangs down. And now here's when you can kind of follow the line a little bit. So the thing that we have to remember here is that this is all kind of one color. Let's mix up another color now and start bringing that in. So if she was going to be kind of a dirty blonde, then maybe I'd bring some yellow in now. Or if we wanted her to be really dark, dark brunette, mix a darker brown and start doing it. So let's mix a little bit of, try to make a darker brown. You bring in some extra red, even some blue to darken that right up. You see in the palette now? So red, blue, a little more green.
Sandra says she jumped in late. What type of brush are you using?
So when you're watercoloring, you want to use a round brush. So both the the brushes that you got in the kit, or the brush that you'll look for at the store, or a water brush, make sure they're a round tip. We also included a flat brush in your kit, but that's for doing backgrounds or things where you need like a straight edge because you're kind of going to go all over the place. But mostly for watercolors, you're going to be wanting to use a round brush, no matter what the size. Okay, so dipping off, let's see what this darker. So I'm going to do the exact same strokes again, but this time with the darker brown, as thin as you can. Like right with the tip of the brush. Try not to have it lie flat at all. Working around the highlight. And it's just flicking. And just try to leave this part open. Now, we are going to close it at some point, but it'll be lighter than what it is right now. Okay, let's follow it down. A little bit more water in here. Dip it off first. If you don't dip it on the paper towel, it's just going to drip on your page. And once you feel like you've got a lot of that color in, mix up another color. Because nobody's hair really is just one color. Now let's start like bringing it down. She'll probably have another highlight somewhere around here. So let's kind of work up and leave that. It probably also is going to be quite a bit darker, like where her, like by her neck, but let's worry about that in a bit. And mix up a little bit more paint here. So that's looking a little green. So if it is, bring in some red. What we want to do here is not just color it in. We still want to have strokes, kind of keep a highlight there. But wherever you have one color, bring in a little bit of that color everywhere, even if it's not the main. And don't worry if it looks a hot mess at first. It's building. It's just building, building, building. See how the highlight's getting smaller, but it's still there. It's like there is strokes over it, but the more you just kind of avoid it or just kind of hit it every so often, the more natural the hair is going to look. All right, mix up a little bit more paint. Blue, red. So blue, red, and green to get that dark brown. And again, I'm just going over top of where I've already gone so that she's getting those great like highlights. I've got quite a bit more filling in to do down here. And try not to have dry strokes. What I mean by a dry stroke is this. So see how the stroke begins looking wet and then it kind of gets drier here? You want to make sure you have enough paint on your brush that you're not getting a lot of dry strokes because that doesn't look real. You want to make sure you've got enough pigment that you're not getting a lot of dry strokes. And really, the dry strokes come from just doing too many strokes without getting more paint on your brush. So it looks like I've got the highlight kind of developing here. Be careful right around the neck that you don't end up inadvertently, coloring on her face. I mean, it's okay if she gets like hair on her face. We all have hair on our face. But if it's meant to be sort of the background, you know what I mean? Too many dry strokes at the side here. I'm going to fill that in a little bit. A little more water. Resist the urge to color it in. Instead, just keep layering. And you're not ruining your paints by mixing them together. It'll just come off with clean water. I'm gonna get lots of water on here, but I don't want it to be too translucent. I want there to be lots of pigment in there. This is where tube watercolor paint is advantageous because you can put a lot more down on your palette or kind of squeeze it on there and not have to like pull from the dry palette. Maybe in a future Watercolor Wednesday, we'll use some liquid or tube. We were debating that tubes in this kit, but sometimes the tubes are a little intimidating, a little more advanced. But you guys can let us know if you're into the tubes, if you would want to see those in a future Watercolor Wednesday. We just want to keep this up. Are you guys wanting to keep up Watercolor Wednesdays? Like even if we're beyond this 4 weeks, and just keep doing stuff like this, you guys let me know. Like it doesn't have to be attached to the kit at all, or we can just keep using what we've got. Here's what happens if we've got the stuff, and sometimes if we know what Watercolor Wednesdays, it forces us
Yes.
to get them out and get doing it. You know what I mean?
Everyone's saying yes.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do next week's like outside since we're doing flowers or something like that. Ruby, what do you think about that idea? You want to go outside? Yeah, I know, that'd be good.
I want to go outside.
What about the dog? Well, the dog can go outside.
Oh, and it's 2-2-1.
We're winning. Oh, you guys, hey, the update is, let's look at this. Markham Mariners 11, the Barrie Colts 2.
Just want to hear some Barrie.
Well, if someone's from Barrie,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. We're sorry.
Everyone's saying that they've learned a lot.
Oh,
so
that's
far.
good. And you want to know what? It's not like you have to learn something new every single week. Sometimes it's just fun to do something and get good at what we currently have, So look at the difference in, for looking overhead, look at the difference in, this side versus the side we started on. This one is definitely starting to look a lot more, colored in, but not all one color. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rinse off my brush, and rather than leave this highlight totally white, let's go in with a little bit of that gold. Let me bring in a little bit of gold. You see? Trying not to put it on a little bit of gold. And I'm just going to mix it a little bit with the brown. Let's not regret this. So I sort of got like a goldy brown and not much at all. No, I want it more gold than that. Now, not much at all. And I'm just over the highlight. Oh, not big strokes, small strokes. Take a little bit of brown and mix it in if it's looking like you have like a yellow. So that the highlight looks more natural and not just like white. See what I mean there? So did the light just go on, Tamara? I love Tamara in the background because I know what she's thinking. It's like she's got a big white bubble over her head. She's like, don't put that blonde on there. Don't put that blonde on there. And then you kind of just put enough, and then you can see that's the real highlight that we protected. And if it's a little too like, oh, it looks like she got streaks, then just go over a little bit with your brown. A couple little, won't take much. Because the highlight's still there. See what I mean? It doesn't have to be a big white dot, even though at first it does appear that way. It does. And remember I said, Don't judge it at first. Like it's always going to look like a hot mess at first. But it's layers, and you can come back like tomorrow or the next day and add some more because maybe you're sick of like doing this flicking motion by now. That's okay. Come back to it tomorrow and add some more layers. It'll always look good with layers. Layers over just coloring it all in one color.
Going back to the watercolor Wednesdays, Nell says that she'd love to learn more flowers and birds and Christmas stuff.
Sure, for sure. And while we're on that, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., we're going to do a little, I guess it's a bonus class for anyone in the watercoloring, but it'll be the watercolor class for anybody who bought or got the stamp in the subscription box. I have it here.
Mm-hmm. With the other stamps.
We're going to do this stamp tomorrow night, the flower hanging in the macrame, because we got a macrame kit in the subscription in the Homemade Life box, and we got watercolor pencils, watercolor pencil crayons, I should say. These are watercolor pastels. We got watercolor pencil crayons, so we're going to pull those out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. If you want to tune into that. I'm going to give her like a little wispy bang here. I like this. All right, let's get the other side going. Oh, we're almost 8 o'clock. Jeez.
Is it better to do one side and then the other side, or both at the same time?
I mean, I find that maybe it is better to do both sides at the same time because, you know, you're risking not being able to match the paint exactly the same. Let me see. Are you not liking yours, Rube? Let me see.
No.
I won't show. Let me just see.
It used to be so nice.
Oh, it used to be so nice. That's all right. We're amongst.
I couldn't find a good brown shade, so I used black.
Oh, you used black instead of mixing? Let me see. Do you want a new page? Okay. But you have to get comfortable at mixing a little bit. Let me see. Oh yeah. Hey, but hey, she's got a nice full head of black hair there for sure.
Yeah, and I tried to add blue to fix it.
Oh. That's all right. Don't wreck it. Don't wreck it. Here, I'll just give you another sheet.
Yes.
There's lots of sheets. Oh, you want this one with her hair up? I know.
Yeah.
Some of these girls look just gorgeous. There we go.
This one.
It's okay. And you should know in this pad, the faces repeat. So if like Ruby, you're wanting to chuck yours, you can just start again. It's fine. All right. I'm just gonna.
This girl's got a giraffe neck.
I know she has a long neck. Ruby's doing this one. Ruby, don't make fun of people's bodies. That's not nice. So I'll just show you the one I already. Ruby's taking this one. But this is the one I already did.
I'll keep the one that's already made.
No, but you could look at it as a reference. I haven't done her hair yet. But you can see how her cheekbone kind of has a little bit of extra layers there under her neck, but then nothing here, you know, like I kind of think that looks good. All right. You can use that as your reference. I'm going to keep building on her hair here.
I got black on it.
Yep. Let me see. Ruby, go wash your hands. Look at your hands are covered in black. Jeez.
I know. I also made a little guy jumping on a trampoline.
Okay. Remember, you don't have a mic on, so no one can hear you.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Okay, protecting the highlight.
Sandra says it probably looks beautiful, Ruby.
Want me to show you guys while she's not in the room? Yeah. Where is it? She'll feel so betrayed though. I don't see it.
She left with it. She didn't trust you.
She knew it wasn't that bad. She's being critical. But it was sort of like not enough little strokes. Did you bring your thing with you?
What thing? My image?
Yeah.
I chucked it.
Oh, you chucked it. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I actually threw it.
You actually threw it out. Don't worry, Ruby. It's all building. Remember, this is the first time lots of us are ever doing this technique of preserving the highlight. But you'll think about the highlight now going forward. Even in flowers and in nature, there is almost always a highlight. The sun's almost always hitting somewhere a little brighter than somewhere else. So remember that when you're painting anything. Where is the sun hitting? What direction is the light coming from? And that's how you start to think like an artist. I'm just sort of joining at the top here. So now see how we've got that white hole again, that highlight. It's going to finish a little more at the bottom here. Get it filled in a little bit better. And then we'll address that. I mean, you could leave it. It does look fine. Like it definitely looks like a highlight. It doesn't have to look perfectly real. I mean, her face doesn't look perfectly real. You know, it's obviously like a caricature kind of thing, but it's definitely a cool look. And if you weren't into like spending this long on the hair, then just do the faces. Don't worry about the hair at all. You could just boycott the hair.
Or give her short hair.
Yeah, totally. Little pixie cuts. Or a pony. Slick. That looks good, Ruby.
My green brush.
Yep.
Brenda says that looks so good.
Oh, good. Okay, now I'm going to go back with that and pick up a little bit of that blonde. I've still got some on my... And watch it come to life here. Just flick. A little bit more brown. I feel like this side's looking a little more red or a little more yellowy. So let's just go with a little bit darker. Mix a little bit darker of a brown.
Just looks fuller on that side, like more color saturated
Mm-hmm.
on the other side.
Okay. Okay, let's help her face out a little bit more. That's a bad expression. So just with some clean water, I'm going to activate a bit more of my skin tone. Do you have that one? I'm going to put it down on my... Now I'm going to go back to using my water brush. Can you guys see? Do I need to zoom out? And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of pigment, give it a little squirt, activate it. And now we know where her hairline is. So I'm just going to come in here with a little bit more. And then remember, once it's on there, you cannot take it off. So I would put a light wash over everywhere first, and then come in with some darker so that it can carry itself a little bit.
Kathy says, 2 things I learned tonight. 1, watercolor paper is more forgiving. And 2, I will never be a portraitist.
That's okay.
12-2.
12-2, wow. So I'm just kind of picking up and shading out again, building on the layers. I'm putting down on her cheeks, though, a little bit of wash of water first, and then bringing the color over. Because if there's no water on the page, it really has nowhere to go. Like it really will be like a very dense, opaque line. So let's give her a bit of a cheekbone here. In fact, with some of these, you can bring in another color, like and really densen it up, like give her like some strong angles. And just keep playing. I mean, I'm guessing that this isn't going to be something that you hang or you put up, that this is just going to remain in this pad of paper. So, hey, if you want to like really go for it, go for it. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a wash here first, squeeze a little bit of water. Give her a little angle. Under her nose is looking a little. So now her face is looking redder than her neck because this has only got the one layer on it now. So let's make sure that her neck is nice and highlighted. So let's get some darker. You can even mix in a little bit of gray. Again, using the tip and then
every time I think you are messing it all up, you make it amazing again.
I know, but don't judge yours either by what it looks like at the beginning, because it doesn't have enough layers. And if you don't like what it looks like, keep building until eventually you just have to scrap it or chuck it like Ruby did. It's okay. No big deal. Really, it's just about having a bit of fun. You know what I mean? This isn't going in a museum. This isn't getting passed on from generation. This isn't like a family whatever. It's just for fun. So if it's good, great. If it's not good, it's fine. It's no big deal. So I'm just giving her like a little extra shadow on one side here. All right, so I probably should quit while I'm ahead. Now her eyes are super white because they haven't been like painted at all. So you've got it kind of got some options. You could oh my gosh, I literally just caught that in my hair and it flung. You could put a little like watery, like gray, thanks, Mar, like watery grayish kind of a color. If you laid down like a little bit of, but it has to be super watery. Let's see. Just in like the corner of her eyes even. Remember, you want it to be watery. You don't want it like, you want it to sort of look like a shadow, not necessarily that she has gray eyes. You could also do that too, like down on her neck is add a little gray if you want to like shadow things out. Now, I'm also a big fan of quitting while you're ahead and less is more. So I'm not going to keep fiddling, but I just want to show you that, you know, it's a possibility.
I finished my skin.
Very good, Ruby. Okay, someone had asked about curls. Okay, so if you go to this page here, it's kind of an example. The drawing is just sort of abstract, like, you know, curls. Let me see if there's any other ones that have. I don't think there's one that has like real curly hair. It's sort of like swooshy and up. So if you were to do curls, I would take the tip of your brush, so whatever color you wanted to use. Let's say we got more of a redhead here. And literally just like loose, like don't try to draw it in, like don't try to like draw big ringlets. Let it sort of just happen and go some opposite ways, like go one way and then another way, one way and then the other way, and let the curls sort of kind of just develop. Don't try to go like ringlet or, you know what I mean? Let it be loose like that. I wish I had this hair. This is cool. Okay, try to avoid big, thick brush strokes too, because hair is not thick. It's super thin. So you want it to just kind of layer up. And ultimately, you can keep layering this up, water it down a little bit more, you know, again, still protect the highlight. Like, you know, curly haired people still are going to have highlights. Like the sun's still going to hit it. It's just not going to be as like linear.
Are you still using the fine brush?
I'm using the medium brush there, but I'm always using the tip. No matter what brush you're using, especially for hair, you always want the tip. And so that's how I would do curls. A little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit left, a little bit right. What else? It's 8:15. We should be wrapping up. Is there any other homework? Yes, Ruby wants the homework because I know everyone's dying to get to the florals. It's true. It is the most fun, but you do need to practice some other, skills too. We could do a little bit of the clothing here if you guys wanted before we go. But it's a lot of coloring in, but it's also think about what's protruding. So think about where the highlight will be, like in the top of the shoulders, underneath, kind of like here, going down into her waist will probably be a little bit darker. It'll be a little bit more shadowed. You can see the artist has put like the cinch of the belt, and this right in the center here where her belt is would be a highlight. So if we were putting a red dress on her, we would want the red to be very deep. Now, red is caution with red. Red is just like very tough. And then with a clean brush, go in and bring it over and let that be the highlight. You can kind of but these drawings especially, you don't even have to finish the whole thing. They're kind of like meant to be a little messy, a little free, a little loose. So if that's how you wanted to do it and just kind of had a little play, instead of worrying about being super structured and kind of, in the lines and, perfect, let it be a little free and loose. See what I mean? Like you can just sort of, you don't even have to finish the whole thing. Let it sort of look like, have that kind of splotchier, messy, abstract kind of look. Now you can go in with clean water and a bit of red and finish it off just so that it's complete. But it still maintains that look of fading out. So that's what I would recommend. If you like that look where it's not all the same color, it kind of looks watercolored. Don't leave it white. Instead, just take a clean brush and clean water and bring it down. All right, you guys can play with the rest. I know it's like it's tempting to just keep going and going and going because it's fun and you can kind of go all night here, but all right, let's give her this long neck. And we'll just keep that look up where it doesn't have to be totally colored in every single place. I'm just going to kind of do all dark. All the shading is going to be here on the left. And I'm just picking up this color in my palette.
No one can see that.
And see how it looks? It looks like severe right now. Like you're just painting on one side of her. But then clean brush, clean water. See what I mean? And then we can add a little rouge. And same with the legs. Like you'll do something similar with the legs where it's just like, just along the one side. Just along the one side. And then clean water. Clean water. See what I mean? I want to just keep going, but I should wrap it up. We got to go to bed tonight, right, Ruby?
No.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so I do want you to like have a play. Post something that you love that you did this week, even if painting portraits isn't in your future. It's fine. None of us are going to become portrait artists, but it is fun to have a little play, especially with some of the ones that have clothes and hair, and see if you can get a bit of that blend. Test your skills on this mixed media paper versus the watercolor paper. And I bet you when we go back to watercolor paper next week, A, you're thankful for it. And B, you'll never make the mistake of thinking all paper is equal. Because it really isn't. And this is a great way of seeing how different papers react to the exact same paint. So for this, so you've practiced already, if you've done your homework for the subsequent nights, you've practiced doing like the motion of thick and thin. Let me just show you that one more time in case you're not really remembering the homework way back from week 1.
Someone says Ruby just loves homework.
Yes, she loves the homework. In this case.
This kind of homework.
Yeah. So very, very thin, very, very thick, and back up to thin. Very, very thin, thick, back up to thin. And what does that look like? A leaf. Thick, thin. So this looks like a leaf. It's true. But you're not seeing me draw a leaf and like drawing a leaf and then like coloring it in. I mean, I guess I could do that. It looks okay, actually.
It does.
But mostly, I want to say, the watercolor florals are achieved with brush strokes. And being able to lift the brush off your page in just the right amount of time to achieve some of these like really natural looks, and being able to go use your brush in a way that's like very, 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 very thick and very, very thin. So that was what we practiced on the very first night of Watercolor Wednesdays. What did I? Oh, there's my paper towel. Keep your paper towel close. And then I think the second one I forgot to give homework. But then last week we talked about doing your C motion. So that's going like making a little letter C, and then doing it backwards, a little letter C, and just getting some muscle memory built up. And the reason why we're doing these little letter C's is because eventually we'll want to do a bigger, more watery letter C to kind of fill in that rosebud. That's a dirty brush. Yuck. It's a mix of like a red and green. So we don't want that. But if we do those letter C's and then a bigger letter C, that's the best way to start getting your florals going and getting some peonies growing or some roses growing. See what I mean? This is just little letter C's and bigger letter C's, and then your green thick and thins. And then suddenly you are doing your own florals, and it is looking more like those sort of prints that you're all sort of craving to get good at. So little letter C, And we're going to do this more next week, but I know this is what people are kind of sticking around for. Again, you want to protect the highlight. You want there to be white in that drawing. The white and being brave enough to leave the white there is really kind of key to having your flower look realistic. The more you color it in, so if I have it on, the more if I take this rose and kind of start like painting it in, see what I'm doing here? And not leaving the white, the more it ends up looking, it will end up just looking like a blob. And so really being careful to leave the white. And if you need to paint more, waiting until it dries and then bringing in more layers.
Can you do a tulip?
Can we do tulips? Yeah, we could do tulips. So I'm just bringing the brush strokes, using the brush strokes, like down thick and thin and layering them up. I'll let that dry a little bit. And, you know, you could have, like, some tulips have leaves that are sort of like falling off a little bit or more out front. And then once it kind of gets a little more dry at the end, then you can add your way to put me on the spot. Jeez. Okay, let's wrap it up tonight because next week is florals. Otherwise, we'll be giving it all away. If you have, I'll give you a little tip right now. If you have flowers in your garden or something that's growing right now that you're inspired by, bring it in, have it at your desk, or do next week's session outside. That'll be just a great feeling. I love painting outside. There's just something about a summer night and having all your stuff in your little kit, even if it's just on the back step or front porch or at your picnic table or on your balcony or whatever you have. It is a nice feeling. So maybe we'll try to make it work outside next week, or bring your flowers in. That'd be good. It doesn't matter what floral you have for inspiration. But if you have something that you want to, lots of stuff is in bloom right now, bring it in and we can have a little floral play next week. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Even if you are not going to be a portrait painter, give the pad a little bit of a play because it is fun to just kind of do something a bit different, try out some of the different faces, and have a little play with her makeup too. Like, you know, you can really, you know, give her a little look that you might not ever go for. Why not? Like, you could really shade her in and have her, you know, right ready for, I don't know what, a night out. Okay. Let's see yours, Rube. Oh, ooh. I see. The skin tone looks very good. I see you attempted some freckles. Yes, I see that.
That's good. I like her.
I love the hair. I love the highlights. The lips look great. Keep at it. I love that you preserve the highlight in her blue eyes.
I did the red.
Very
right,
good.
and you said not to.
Red is tricky. Red is tricky. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. We will see you tomorrow night for the bonus class, where we're going to do the stamp and the card that was in the Homemade Life box. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.